Austin Nicolas Cage came to me in a dream and told me to watch Face Off.
Wait. You want me to watch Face Off?
Face Off. He came to me in a dream and he did watch Face Off and talk about it.
No more drugs
No
for
more
that man.
So, but listen, if he comes to you in a dream and tells you to watch Face Off, you do it. And so I did, and then I made you do it too, and I just want to know what you thought about it.
I think we should talk about it.
Please, let's talk about it.
Well, first of all, I have to tell you that, quite frankly, it was an enjoyable movie. I forgot how long it was.
It was a long... Okay.
I forgot how long it was.
We watched it for free too, right? So did you do Roku?
Yeah.
I did Pluto TV. So it's free with ads. I haven't watched a movie with ads this decade, like in the 2020s.
There were no ads on mine, but nonetheless, it was a long movie. No,
I had ads. It was like a 3-hour experience.
Oh no, mine was like 2:18
for a 2:15 movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was long. And every time you think it's over, and you think that Nicolas Cage is finally going to kill John Travolta, it goes on for 30 more minutes.
Which Nicolas Cage killing which John Travolta?
I don't want to spoil it.
Sean.
Spoiler alert for this
Sean.
almost 30-year-old movie, for the record.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, almost 30 years. So spoiler alert. I'm going to spoil it. Of course I am. Go on, tell me your thoughts. What do you got for Face Off?
Face Off.
You don't have to do that every time.
I think you do. All right, so first of all, I want to go somewhat chronologically, but I also have some categories I want to talk through. All right, so first of all, I just have to say, at the very start of the movie, he makes smoking look cool.
Well, and I don't want to encourage smoking, so I'm going to say that he made chiclets look cool, and that might even be harder. Let's be honest.
He had two 45s, two gold-plated 45s.
Those were so cool.
They were.
Amazing.
Probably not super functional, but he made them look super functional.
I think anytime you take a gold-plated 45 or gold-plated anything in a combat, it's not going to be gold-plated when you're done.
No.
I don't think.
Not unless you're Nic Cage.
Unless you're Nic Cage. 1 minute in the movie, he's working on his little McDonald's straw, and then he's like dancing and being Nic Cage in front of the choir and like kind of weirdly molesting that chick in the choir, right? Like, that's a minute into the movie, or like 1 to 3 minute margin.
I have in my notes, 5 minutes in, sexual assault on a minor.
On a minor.
I don't think it was 5 minutes.
In public.
Yeah.
And she was okay with it? Like, what the heck?
In a church!
What was it?
I don't know.
It looked like just a public space, kind of, but they were singing church songs. It was.
I guess it was LA Convention Center. They said that later on.
You're right. Yeah, I should have paid attention. Anyway, my point is that...
Did you watch the movie, Sean?
Let's
stop.
Into the movie.
Did you watch more than a minute of the movie?
No, that turned me off so much I quit. 1 minute into the movie, he's already like working that McDonald's straw drink, and he's dancing and being Nic Cage. Coming out singing and stuff.
Shaking his head.
He has his Nic Cage moment right away.
Yeah. Well, you have to announce your presence with authority, as they say.
He did.
Yeah. And early on as well, in those early scenes, there is a gratuitous but also completely appropriate amount of wind and slow motion.
There is
when he's got the cape and a lot of wind and slow-mo. I think one of the things that or at least I failed to realize going into this, was that Nicolas Cage and John Woo together are greater than the sum of the parts. I think it's because of the birds.
It's always the birds.
The birds.
Although we didn't get... Was there just one major part of the movie that had a lot of birds in it, though?
Yeah, it was, but there was the implication of birds through, I think, some of the slow-motion scenes.
Fair enough, yeah.
And part of it, I think, is that with the combination of John Woo and Nic Cage, your mind already fills in that blank. There's already a dove. There's already a dove.
In here.
Yeah.
It's not up here.
If the slow-mo starts, do you suppose those birds unionize Screen Actors Guild?
I hope so. I hope they get their due.
Yeah,
I hope they get their
I want
due.
to make sure they're getting what's theirs. To that end, have you ever seen a bird in a church? I never have.
They're in movies, churches, a
lot.
And I've been to a lot of church, too.
You've been to that kind of church.
I went to the smallest church I've ever been in last weekend. Not a bird in sight.
Do we owe Nic Cage more credit because Nic Cage is playing John Travolta playing a Nic Cage?
For good or bad, and everybody's got different opinions, and that's okay. But this is the most Nic Cagey movie I have ever seen. Keep in mind, there's a movie about Nic Cage that is about Nic Cage, and it's a good movie. I like it. Spoiler alert, what's it called? Unbearable Weight of Impossible Talent? That movie is about Nic Cage. This is more Nic Cage than that movie.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Did you ever watch that one yet?
No, haven't
cue
watched
it up.
So how about the gratuitous things? What were some of the things that you thought were gratuitous but also beautiful?
There was one scene where there was like 4 boat explosions in the span of like maybe 90 seconds.
And then he flips the boat.
He
flips the boat.
And they like dodge other boat explosions like 2 other times in the span. This is like 90 seconds.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 minutes. And it's just all boat explosions and insanity.
Well, hang on though. Did
please.
you realize that boats were so flammable? Because I did not.
I didn't. I assumed they would be slightly less flammable.
I'm never getting on a boat again, man.
Gratuitous boat explosions.
Yep.
And then were they bad at not killing each other? They were good at not killing each other. It's not like either one of them is that evasive.
No, they don't even have they're not even ninjas or anything.
The part where they're looking on each other's side of the mirror, which the cover of the movie almost, right?
Yeah.
Like they're on each side
He
of the mirror.
looks at it and it's like he's looking at the other. Yeah.
How do you not just quietly squat down and shoot? At the very beginning of the movie, why doesn't Nic Cage, after he realized, okay, he's sad he killed the kid, not sad, but whatever he can feel, but he didn't finish killing the guy. To put another bullet in your gun. That, I gotta be honest, man, it outright pissed me off.
So you started the movie pissed off.
That's
and
really
it brought
early.
you back. It brought you back all the way to saying it's the Nic Cage-est movie you've seen, up to and including the movie about Nic Cage's Nic Cageyness.
But the latter thing that you're saying isn't representative of how much of where I'm going to land with this movie. I'm just saying it's the most like Nic Cage per Nic Cage. I think it's because you get Nic Cage on screen and then John Travolta trying to be Nic Cage.
It's like double Nic Cage.
Right, and so it really is, it's a lot of Nic Cage.
Yeah.
Cageception. Did you see my shirt, by the way? I gotta show off.
That's wonderful. Let me see this.
Cage
Oh,
Fighters.
my.
And then John Travolta is on here because it's funny. Look.
There he is. Yeah, because it's clever because that's Nic Cage playing John Travolta.
Yeah. I got my mom one too.
Well, I'm sure she wears it.
And that's what you get for one time out loud saying to somebody you kind of like a Nic Cage movie. Is that every Christmas thereafter, people get you stupid Nic Cage movies and T-shirts.
So, if you had to, what would you say your key takeaway was from this movie? The spirit of this movie is
Nic Cage being Nic Cage. This feels demeaning to John Travolta, who did a nice job. But this movie was clearly made around the idea of like, we want the most Nic Cage thing that we can put into an action movie. I feel like this is a good time to reach out and touch your face like this.
I was nervous, but now I'm not.
You shouldn't be. You shouldn't be.
Okay.
That was like the weirdest metaphor at all, is that we have to have each version of Nic Cage have a creepy hand thing.
You know, I hadn't connected that until now.
Yeah, there was good and bad Nic Cage.
Yeah, this one's bad.
Yeah, this one's bad. Don't do that. Anyway.
The key takeaway I had was that it's really important for us to all have a lot more fun with our own face before somebody takes it off.
I feel like there's a deeper life lesson in there.
There really is.
I'm going to pretend there is one.
I mean, it's Plato, Socrates, Nic Cage. Well, Sean, I got to be honest with you. I think we've covered Face Off to the depth that Face Off can be covered.
You're right. So I've got an important question for you.
Yes.
It's extremely... Think about this.
Okay.
Capture the details. On a scale of 0 to 10, noting that's an 11-point index, right? 5 is your midpoint, where 1 is Nic Cage's worst movie, and 0 is like the other 3 movies in human history that are worse than whatever that worst movie is. And then 9 is Nic Cage's best movie, and 10 is every other movie in history that's better than Nic Cage's best movie, which we'll discover someday what that is. Right? On a scale of 0 to 10, with that in mind, where's it land? What's in the Nic Cage relative spectrum? Where does this fall?
In the Nic Cage index, as it were?
The Nic Cage index, yeah.
The NCI? I give it a solid 7.
Okay.
It's high on my list.
I think that's the right spot. I'm going to say 6. I was waffling between a 6 and a 7. I was so upset that Nic Cage didn't fire the other shot, or at least that he didn't know. Like, he could have seen and thought that they were both dead, right? And then be like, he just walked away, and then later found out, like, oh, he didn't. He survived. Oh, crap, you know. But he didn't. He knew he was alive, and he's just like, oh, that made me so mad. And they're so bad at killing each other. That's my underlying theme. That brought it from a 7 to 6. But what's important is that is still on the side of enjoyable.
Yes.
That's on the positive end of the spectrum.
I think you're right. I think also if you had to decrement, it was entirely too long.
It was too long.
I mean, you're going to have some of that with the John Woo movie because you're going to have that overly cinematic.
It should have ended. It should have ended at the church, frankly. As much as I love a good boat explosion,
yeah,
right? It could have ended at the church when she stabbed him. Nic Cage shoots him. Sean Nic Cage, not Castor Troy Nic Cage. Could have shot him right there, and then that would have been fine. She stabs, done.
Lest we forget, they didn't have to keep him alive at all.
The daughter, yeah, they didn't.
There was no reason to. They'd already taken his face.
his face was
Off.
gone. They could have just killed. So all of the things that I didn't like were either, sexually assaulty, which are uncomfortable, or just they're bad at killing each other. It is so Nic Cagey that if Nic Cage, you don't even have to like him. If he intrigues you as an actor, you've probably seen this movie already, right? If he intrigues you as an actor, you've seen this.
Have.
But if you haven't and he intrigues you as an actor, you got to watch this movie.
If you were born between the ages of 1975 and 1995, you've probably also seen this movie. So what do we want to talk about next time, Sean?
Yeah, come back next time and we're going to solve the extremely important crunchy versus puffed Cheetos debate. It's going to be huge.
We've got thoughts.